Hey Megamaniacs, Mr. MegaManFan here, and Super SD System 3 version 1.03 of the firmware has just been released. New UI, font changes, folder support, singular lists, new button mapping, back button folder navigation. A bunch of games that didn't work have been fixed. You can now drop BIOS into folders and load the BIOS you want. It also loads Japanese games with a US BIOS. It has a screenshot tool that works with role-playing games. You can do button swapping if you want to swap the 1 and 2 buttons, and you can even do mono mixing of the output of CD audio if you have something like the PC Engine LT portable screen, but you have to do a little bit of soldering to the SSD 3 if that is what you want to do. But it is a very important update. A lot of quality of life improvements that even my cat Tango would like you to know are awesome. You have to be a registered user of the Terraonion Super SD System 3, and if you are, you go to the downloads page and scroll down and select the new firmware. Credit where it's due to the Terraonion team because they have made installing this an incredible breeze. Once you download it, you have to unzip the folder that you just downloaded, which you can see I've got right here, Super SD System 3 version 1.03, and once you unzip that folder, inside the folder, you will have an update file. That's what the folder looks like when you unzip it, at least it does on my MacBook. PC obviously will be slightly different. But you take this update file, 303345E9 update, and as it says in the README, you just drop it in the root of the micro SD card that you use with your Super SD System 3. That's it. You just drop the update file into the root folder. You don't have to do a whole bunch of arcane things like format a new card, drop it into the folder, wait for it to update the firmware, flash it, and then go back and put everything on your SD card that you want. It's none of that. You can leave everything on your micro SD the way it is with no problems. Just drop the update in and turn on your Super SD System 3 by turning on your PC Engine or TurboGrafx 16. That's the file you drop into the folder. Let me show you what it looks like once that happens. As you can see, when I turn on my TurboGrafx 16, I get the logo like normal, and then a screen that says new firmware update detected, current version 1.02, new version 1.03, press button to update, update in progress, please wait, and almost instantaneously, you are back to the main menu, only now you can tell that the new firmware has been installed because the menu has changed. Everything is now in uppercase and lowercase combined instead of all in uppercase, and you now have one folder showing all of your CD games. You no longer need to go to a separate tab to access CD, but you can have subfolders in the main folder, and all of my HuCard games are still in that folder. So I could combine them and have one list of games, or I can leave it the way it is and have a subfolder for the HuCard games. I've yet to decide how I want to organize it, but now you have more options instead of being forced to keep CD games in a CD tab and HuCards in their own. You can combine them together any way you want. You can create different folders like an A through F, a G through M, an N through Z. You can do it any way you like. And as noted, you have more options now to control your Super SD System 3. The one option that I can't recommend, that I've never had any kind of success with, is the in-game triggers. When I activate them, a lot of games just won't even load. And I'll show you that in just a second. But you can skip the CD-ROM, which I believe the old firmware had. You've got per-game backup RAM, which I always leave enabled. You can switch the CD mix to mono, as noted, if you want to output it to one of the portable screens that has built-in audio, but you will have to do a little soldering to your Super SD System 3 to make it mix properly back into your TurboGrafx and then output through your display. And it will only be in mono, not stereo, so consider whether or not you want to do that. One of the biggest quality of life improvements is the fact that you no longer need to use the Japanese BIOS to run Japanese games. That was some sort of coding error in the original firmware, but now you can use the US BIOS to boot Japanese games, which in my mind, you always should have been able to do anyway because I own a Turbo Duo, and basically the reason I bought that is because CD games are region free. So when I bought Japanese import CD games, I could play them the same as US CD games. And now the Super SD System 3 mimics that by letting you run anything off your US BIOS. So very good quality of life improvement. Well done to the Terraonion team. As you can see, I'm running JB Herald Murder Mystery. This is working as expected. No flaws, no errors, no audio, no glitches. I don't actually know which games were affected by the seek time errors on the original firmware. I'm sure somebody has compiled a list, but I honestly never even noticed any problem running CD-based games when I was using them through the Super SD System 3. Again, one of the reasons I got it is so I don't have wear and tear on my CD drive or the CDs themselves if I can play backups of my CDs directly off of the TurboGrafx 16, which I couldn't even do anything like that with the TurboGrafx 16 before because I didn't have the CD attachment, so I always had to play CD games with my Turbo Duo, and now I don't. I can play them on a regular TurboGrafx 16, but now with a more sophisticated firmware. Unfortunately, without the in-game triggers, you still have to cycle the power on and off to get back to the menu and choose another game to play. But for that reason, I put my TurboGrafx 16 within close reach simply by running an extra long AV cord from the switch box to the console and plugging it into a power supply as close to where I sit as I could. So the only other way I could think of to do that is if I had some sort of remote control that I could cycle the power on and off with, but I'd rather do it with the power switch. That seems safer and more natural to the actual function of the TurboGrafx 16, whereas interrupting the power by cutting it off at the source, not the normal intended operation of the system, and who knows if that could cause an excessive load on any of the hardware inside. Not the kind of thing you really want to do, especially after I went to all the trouble to have this thing recapped and cleaned up by my good friend Fix-It Phil, just for the purpose of using it with the Super SD System 3. So, once again, as always, thank you to Fix-It Phil. Everybody check out his channel, tinyurl.com/FixItPhilNE, short for Nebraska, because there's more than one Fix-It Phil out there. He's also on Twitch, does live streams of his console repairs and handheld game system repairs, so plenty of good stuff from Phil if you're into retro gaming. And as you can see, the in-game triggers have completely disrupted my HuCard folder. I can't get to Arizonk, I can't get to Alien Crush. If I leave the triggers on, things just don't seem to work right. It would be really nice to have those in-game triggers and actually be able to go back to the menu while playing games, but I've gotten used to the fact that they are largely incompatible and not worth the hassle, so I would rather just cycle the power than have the in-game triggers. If you want in-game triggers, that's probably more a thing for like an EverDrive, like the N8 Pro on the NES. In-game triggers seem to work really well there, don't have issues with it. Analog Mega SG, there's a button on your wireless controller, the 2.4 gigahertz 8-bit DOE controller, that takes you right to the menu. You don't have to worry about in-game triggers at all. But the bottom line is, for what this lets you do running backups of your HuCards and CDs, I don't think the in-game trigger is that big of a deficit, and it would probably add another $100 to the cost of the Super SD System 3 if they had a dedicated chip inside it, just so you could do in-game triggers and save states. And let's face it, that's not in any way necessary. Just disable triggers, and when you're done playing a game, turn the power off and turn the power on. Problem solved. Arizonk works just fine without the triggers. And I know for some of you, getting the Super SD System 3 is also a way around the exorbitant cost of games like Arizonk, because you may not want to shell out that kind of money for it unless you've tried it first. And Super SD System 3 gives you that option. It lets you try very expensive PC Engine or TurboGrafx games, be they HuCard or CD. You get to experience them first on actual hardware, and then you would know whether or not you want to invest the exorbitant prices that some of these games demand. Arizont goes for $115 loose and $230 complete as of the recording of this video, so I certainly recommend try before you buy, especially when you consider that the complete in-box price is not that much less than a Super SD System 3, which if you purchase it through Stone Age Gamer, which is one of my favorite retailers for products of these type, it goes for $299.99. So yeah, $60 more, and instead of playing one game, you can play backups of all your games and try other games that you might never have been able to play on actual hardware, only in software emulation until now. And nothing beats playing original games on original hardware the way they are intended to be, with the actual controller in your hand. It is second to none. So, version 1.03 firmware, an exciting day for Super SD System 3 owners, and for people who were considering a purchase, these quality of life improvements may be just the thing you were looking for. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you again for another video in the near future. Please stay tuned. New videos drop every day. Special videos like this can come at any time.